Welcome back. Let's now talk about angiosperms. Angiosperms, or flowering plants, first appeared in the early Jurassic period around 150 to 200 million years ago. This was the age of the reptiles. They have become the most widespread and diverse group of plants with over 260,000 species. Two special features which help them succeed are flowers, and they help in pollination by attracting animals, especially the insects, to then carry the pollen from one plant to another. And the other feature is fruit, which protect the seeds and help in their dispersal by spreading them to new places. Let's look at the parts of a flower, one which has both male and female floral organs. A flower is basically a group of modified leaves arranged around a central stalk we call the stem. Even though flowers look different from one species to another, they usually have the same main parts. They have sepals, which are leaf-like structures that protect the flower bud before it opens, and together we call them the calyx. And you can see, the sepals right here. And together they call them the calyx. And then we got petals. They are brightly colored leaf-like structures inside the sepals, and all the petals together are called a corolla. And they often attract pollinators with their color and with their scent. And here you see the petals. And collectively we call that the corolla. The pistil, also called carpel or gynoecium, very scientific, is found at the center of the flower. And you can see that right here. And here we have a close-up of a pistil. It has three main parts. It has the stigma, which is the sticky surface where the pollen can land. It's got the style, which is a tube that connects the stigma to the ovary, right here. And then we have the ovary. And that holds one or more ovules, which will develop into seeds after fertilization. And here you can see those ovules. Stamens are the male parts. They are also called androecium. And these parts surround the pistil. And you can see that right here. And there's a close-up right in here. And the stamen have two main parts. They have a filament, which is the stalk, and an anther, which is a sac at the tip of the filament where microspores form the pollen grains. Fruit are the other special feature. After fertilization, the ovary, the part of the pistil containing the ovule, swells and becomes the fruit. In botanical terms, a fruit is a mature, ripened ovary that contains seeds. This means many foods we often call vegetables, like eggplants or these bell peppers, are actually fruit because they contain seeds. Fleshy fruit include this mango, or others like peaches, apples, grapes, or tomatoes, to name a few. Dry fruit include grain, like this wheat or rice, acorns, and nuts. Fruits have different shapes and textures to help with seed dispersal. Some have wings or are lightweight to spread with the wind. Others can float on water, like these coconuts over here, and some are eaten by animals who then spread the seeds in their droppings. Let's talk about the life cycle of an angiosperm. Flowering plants have a life cycle where the main visible plant is the sporophyte, the diploid state. The angiosperms are heterospores, making two kinds of spores: microspores, spores which develop into the male gametophytes found in pollen grain, and megaspores, which divide into female gametophytes into the ovules. Inside the anther, male cells called microsporocytes divide by meiosis to make haploid microspores, which then form pollen grain. You can see that right in here. Each pollen grain has two cells, one that divides into two sperm and another that grows into the pollen tube. And you can see those right here. In the ovule, a megasporocyte divides by meiosis and produces 4 haploid megaspores. You see them right in here. The largest grows by mitosis into the female gametophyte, which is also called the embryo sac. And you can see the embryo sac right here. And it contains egg cells and other cells, including 2 central nuclei. You see here the egg cells and the 2 nuclei. When a pollen grain lands on the sticky stigma, a pollen tube grows down through the style and into the ovary. You can see that here. This pollen grain lands on the stigma, and this red thread is growing down through the style into the ovary. 2 sperm then travel through the tube and enter the embryo sac. 1 sperm fuses with the egg cell, forming a diploid zygote, the future embryo. You can see that here. Ooh, let's go a little bit bigger. There we go. And you can see how the sperm here comes down the pollen tube. And here you see the egg. And here you see how the sperm fertilizes the egg. And then it becomes that embryo, which has a 2n number, which means it's a diploid. The other sperm fuses with the 2 central nuclei that have themselves fused and forms now a triploid cell that then becomes the endosperm, which then becomes the food for the seed. So here you see the fusion, the fertilization, and then that becomes the endosperm. And you see the number 3n up there. That means it's a triploid. The zygote develops into the embryo with small roots called radicles and 1 or 2 leaf-like cotyledons. And you can see that right here. Let me zoom in. You can see the radicles here, the little roots, and you can see the cotyledon here. You see one of them. And here you see the endosperm. The cotyledons help the embryo access the food from the endosperm. And then the seed also has a tough external covering called the seed coat. And you can see that here, seed coat, right here, the tough outside. Most flowers have both male and female parts and are called perfect flowers. But some plants have flowers with separate male and female parts and are called imperfect flowers. A single plant with both male and female flowers is called monoecious, even if they are imperfect, and the same plant makes both types of flowers. A plant that has male and female flowers on different individuals is called dioecious. See here? The pistil and the stamen are on the same flower. This is a perfect flower. On the one below, you got the pistil on the female flower and the stamen on the male flower. So this here are imperfect flowers. These are both monoecious because both female and male flowers or parts are on the same plant. On the one to the right, here you have, let me put this a little smaller, sorry about that. Here you have a dioecious plant with entirely different plants carrying either the male or female reproductive structures. What variety do we have? Let's now group the different angiosperms.